Mr. Speaker, for 2 months, the Prime Minister has been avoiding accountability in his involvement in the SNC-Lavalin corruption scandal, which has been engulfing his government now for months. Now he has indicated that he wishes to sue the Leader of the Opposition for the criticisms that the Leader made. Well, I say, Mr. Speaker, let's get the ball rolling. And the reason being is, quite frankly, these allegations can be tested in court, a place that the Prime Minister cannot shut down. So quickly, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister tell us when he will commence the action?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
We put the Leader of the Opposition on notice because he was making false statements and misleading Canadians. The Opposition Leader and his party have a history of making false and defamatory statements. In December, he had to retract defamatory online statements he made against the Minister of Innovation. He has done this repeatedly and now pretends that it is somehow virtuous for him to mislead Canadians.
Order. The Honourable Member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have a piece of paper, too, with some misinformation that the Prime Minister actually gave, both during the election last time and most recent. Let's start with balanced budgets, maybe electoral reform, maybe a $10 billion deficit, all things that were promised to Canadians and told that would happen that didn't come about. And then we have the most recent crucial issues. For example, the Prime Minister indicating that the former Attorney General never went to him about her concerns. We know that to be patently false, Mr. Speaker, so let's test this in court. When will the Prime Minister start this action?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's not the first time that the Conservative Leader and his party have misled Canadians with false and defamatory statements. As I've said, he's been forced to retract or cease making...
Order, order, order. The Honourable Member for Carleton will come to order. The Honourable Member for Carleton will come to order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said, he's been forced to retract or cease making defamatory statements against members of our government repeatedly. The reason we put him on notice is because he's doing so again. Mr. Speaker, the members of the opposition shouldn't have to mislead Canadians in order to make political points. They should stick to the facts. That's what Canadians deserve.
For Milton.
So, Mr. Speaker, just some free advice for the Prime Minister. Yes, there has been a notice sent over, and the Leader of the Opposition has indicated that he stands by every single word in that press release. That is a problem for the Prime Minister. So I guess, Mr. Speaker, the ball is actually in his court. Now, he can stand up here and wave his arms around and talk about the fact that he's putting us on notice, but why doesn't he actually show us? Let's get it on, Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Putting the Conservative Leader on notice is something we did because the truth was important. And here is the truth. After being asked directly to condemn white supremacists yesterday, the Leader of the Opposition...
Order. I had no trouble hearing the question. I should be able to hear the answer equally well. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, after being asked directly to condemn white supremacists yesterday, the Leader of the Opposition not only refused to do so, he refused to even say the words. So I will give him another opportunity to do so today, and through his Deputy Leader. Will he denounce white supremacy, the alt-right movement, and finally apologize for sharing a platform with them?
The Honourable Member.
L'Honourable.
The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, on March 29th, our leader issued an official statement in a press release saying that the Prime Minister had led a campaign of political interference, that he had personally given orders, that he had denied the truth, and that as a result, the Prime Minister had lost the moral authority to govern. Our leader maintains everything he said in that statement. He even repeated it last night. If the Prime Minister could show some leadership, would he at least follow through on this so that we can hear the full truth? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, the full truth is that we put the Leader of the Opposition on notice because he had made false and misleading statements to Canadians. The Leader of the Opposition and his party have a history of false and defamatory statements. In December, he had to withdraw some statements that he had made online about the Minister of Innovation. He did that repeatedly, and now he's claiming that it's virtuous for him to mislead Canadians. But it's never virtuous to mislead Canadians, as the Leader of the Opposition did. Order. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, what's ironic is that it's the Liberal Prime Minister who himself violated the Conflict of Interest Act 4 times, and now he is trying to sermonize to parliamentarians in this House. This Prime Minister says that what our leader has said is false, but he reiterated all of that last night. If he wants to show some leadership, will he follow through on this notice so that he can testify under oath before the courts? Yes or no? Right Honourable Prime Minister. We put the Conservative leader on notice because the truth is important. And the truth is that after he was asked if he would call out white supremacist groups yesterday, not only did he refuse to do so, he also refused even to say the words. We'll give the Conservatives another opportunity to condemn white supremacist movements. Will they denounce them and apologize for having shared a platform with those who believe in that?
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, was yelling throughout the answer. He knows it's against the rules to interrupt. The
Honourable member for Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, a new report points out that the Prime Minister's actions against former senior ministers is unprecedented in Canadian history. It hasn't been seen in a century. Senior former Liberal staffer Penny Collinette points out how this was highly unusual. The women ministers who spoke up about the truth about interference in criminal prosecution were kicked out for speaking up. Liberals claim that there's nothing to see here. Clearly there is, and Canadians disagree with this government. Why won't this government call a public inquiry?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
As everyone well knows, we spent many, many weeks working to try and find a positive resolution on this issue. This is something that we understand had very strong opinions on multiple sides, and we wanted to work forward and demonstrate that we truly believe that differences of opinion and diversity is a source of strength and resilience for an organization and for a country. That is what we worked very hard on. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to that place. The will of caucus was clear that those individuals could no longer be in caucus. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we're going to continue focusing on what matters to Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Well, speaking of the truth, the Prime Minister said today, you can't lie to Canadians. Sure, but the Prime Minister's own story has been changing since day one, and he himself has admitted that his story was not accurate. If the Prime Minister thinks that Canadians want to know the truth, why is he refusing to launch a public inquiry? Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we've always been very, very clear on this issue. From the very beginning, we've said that we'd do 2 things. We would defend jobs across the country for Canadian workers, and we will respect both our institutions and the rule of law. And that is exactly what we've done. We have great respect for the work that our parliamentary committees do, and we also respect the Ethics Commissioner who is investigating. We will always participate in these investigations, but we know that we are defending our institutions on this side of the House. The Honourable Member for Burnaby.